Hi there everybody, Peter of England bringing you an update 5 days before the United States presidential election that's due to begin on Tuesday the 3rd of November 2020. Probably one of the singular most important events in the history of democracy, so-called. But as you all know, the democracy or the democratic process is nothing more than a sham, where elected representatives get put into place for a period of 4 to 5 years, and it operates just as a revolving door with nobody taking responsibility for no matter what happens. So we've got another charade, we've got this happening again, as I say, in 5 days. The reason for this update is to all those people who purchased one of the Economic Impact Payment Vouchers. A lot of questions are being asked by people in places like Belgium, in Spain, in India, in Sri Lanka or Taiwan. Can they still access the voucher program? And the answer definitely from now on is yes. From the 4th of November, when we expect a massive majority landslide, red wave, red tsunami for the reinstallment of Donald J. Trump into the White House, then what we're going to have then is the United States Department of Defense, remember, who are in charge de facto and de jure of the United States Corporation, also known as the government. They are going to be in charge of all payment transactions worldwide. Many people are talking about NESARA and GISARA. Many people are talking about a reset. Well, the way that the reset will come as a beneficial proposition to you, as opposed to a World Bank, IMF, European Central Bank offering, is that the vouchers will be a fundamental part of this program. So we need it coming from the United States as the largest trading partner globally on the planet, with the Federal Reserve now firmly in the hands of the United States military. Now, why this is important for those people who've got a voucher or who will have a voucher, everything will continue as normal. So there is no deadline, there is no cutoff. If you're just ordering a voucher, don't worry about it. This is all set to continue long after November the 5th. The question then is, dependent upon the outcome of the election on the 5th of November, the election that will be on the 3rd of November, with the results well known and worldwide known and broadcast by the 5th at the very latest, what we will have then is either a move or a counter move by the Democratic New World Order, Khazarian Zionist cabal to try and remove Donald Trump one way or the other, or what I suspect, or I would hope, is that Donald Trump, through the United States Department of Justice, with the Attorney General, and now with the Supreme Court available with a conservative right-wing majority of 6-3, then the arrests can well get underway, and those people who have been obstructing justice, those people who've been covering up and concealing the criminality that's been going on in Washington DC, and then in London, and in Germany, in Berlin, and in France, through all these political puppet leaders that have been put in place over the decades prior. We're going to see more arrests and more prosecuting for all the looting that they've been doing. So what we found out, and why I'm making this video now, is we found out that there is a deliberate policy in the financial economic world to push back on the vouchers. The vouchers were tacitly acknowledged by the United States Department of Defense, and should we say those people well intentioned to help relieve your debt, but with all the backstabbing and all with the political seat changing and revolving door philosophies that we've had in the last 6 months, there's been some stalling. So many of you, I know, have had the vouchers either returned to you, not many, a good percentage, but that's affecting you, so you want realistic alternatives or solutions. Several have had the vouchers returned to them by the banks, either saying they're a non-clearing item or that they are not an acceptable form of payment. So what we are looking to do for all of you that have a voucher, and that has happened too, we are introducing now, in addition to what's going to be happening with the new red wave of the grand old party's victory come the 3rd, 4th of November, what we're going to introduce is a facility for you through Freeman Legal Services. So look at the description box under this video to help you with two very, very important tenets of contract law which are being foisted upon you by the mortgage companies, the credit card companies, the vehicle payment companies, student loan companies, anyone that's chasing you now for money. And what that is they're addressing to you that you are under an obligation because you signed a contract or entered into a contract with them to make payments. Unfortunately, what nobody seems to be addressing, apart from the very, very well-paid law firms in places like Washington, New York, London and Paris, is the fact that many of the very large organizations are escaping through a very, very important tenet of contract law. And that is two propositions. One is called impossibility and the other is frustration. So impossibility to perform the contract and a frustration of the contract for one side or other, or both, of the contract. So most of the people who are chasing you for money and saying that you're obligated to pay or they're going to take you to court are laboring under the misconception that everything is still just fine, just as it was in 2015, 16, 17, 18 and 19, possibly when you signed the contract. However, things have changed. Now what has entered into the mix is in effect a force majeure. A force majeure can also be described as an act of God. So it's something that was unforeseen when the contract was entered into, that neither party could realistically expect to happen. And in this particular case, that is very much the case. Because historically, in the last 50 years, even the last 100 years, nothing like this has ever happened. And if there have been outbreaks of, should we say, contagious diseases, they've always been contained within a region or in a country at the very, very least. So we're into a new chapter. So nobody can come along, whether it's a landlord, whether it's a credit card company, a mortgagee, mortgage company, to claim that now you're on breach of your contract for any fault of your own, because this is no fault of your own. These are rules that have been imposed upon you by the political masters and the political class that have told you you can't earn money, that businesses must close. But ask yourself also, why are the employers, the people who own these businesses, the people who are their lives have depended upon the vast creation of these business empires, why are not one of them coming out in protest with either the lockdown measures or the furloughing or the laying off of employees or the restrictions on them being able to earn? And I'll tell you why. Because we have, and it's obvious, we've found out from very reliable sources that it has been deliberately communicated to them to look the other way, and the money in the form of quantitative easing payments that have been made to them over the last decade have been a compensation for the fact that they have to implode their own businesses and deliberately trash the economy. So for all of you out there thinking it's going to get better in 2021 or 22 or by 2025, forget it. It's over, it's ashes. You're looking out on an economic wasteland, the likes of which the destruction of Nagasaki and Hiroshima have no parallel with from an economic point of view. The tourism, airline industry, major manufacturing is never going to come back to where it was, because that's not part of the plan. The part of the plan is the next plan, and you are not in the club. And that is the club that they're going to use to beat you over the head into submission, into a face recognition, universal credit, biochipped program whereby you can't shop or buy anything without first the facial recognition and secondly without the certificate of health that they will give you on condition that. So we've got to head this off before, and the best way to head it off in the meantime is by looking at these major tenets of contractual obligation, which can be frustrated and become impossible. So we will send a notification to everyone that has purchased the voucher. So there's a triple safety net here. One, for those who've already got the voucher, that's all well and good. For those who are in the process of ordering, two, that's all well and good. And three, for all of you, the safety net that gets put underneath is the class or concerted action to maintain the continuity within our scenario, not theirs, that the model has changed. We are not, by any remote imagination, still existing in a 2019 economically normal parameter or world. And if that is the case, then there has been an act of God. For all of those who've got a little bit of sense of humor about this, or want to maybe use some creative dissent, go along and approach your local Catholic priest or pastor and ask them if they claim to be representatives of God. And if they do, as I'm sure they will, then what they're going to say is, yes, they're representatives of God, and therefore, you might therefore say, as agent and principal have the same relationship, and as an agent of God, they are therefore responsible for this act of God, this force majeure. And so I would kindly suggest you prepare an invoice and hand it to them and make them responsible for the payment. Apart from that, as I say, what we'll be doing is emailing to all of you a overview of the letter that you can easily send to the creditor, so-called, alleging that the contract is now frustrated, it is impossible to perform, therefore you have been placed in a position where you cannot maintain your obligation under the contract, and with that it would be a very, very difficult argument by any judge to say that the statement of fact that you presented in that case is anything but true. So that's going to be, we're going to do more videos coming up, hopefully to the election, and thereafter either amazing things are going to start happening where I think maybe Donald Trump, and if he gets his military personnel coagulated in the correct manner, with the correct ratios, with the Supreme Court behind him, then the arrests and the clearing up of this demonocratic system based out of Washington DC, but infected into all the major capitals of the world through all their political structure, can be brought to a satisfactory end. And this nonsense of mask wearing, this nonsense of being frightened by something in the air that doesn't even exist, where subliminally and psychologically the forcing of you into wearing a mask communicates the sentiment that you are unhealthy, unclean, and you have a moral responsibility to make yourself cleaner, otherwise you're going to end up killing Granny. Anyway, if you like the video, subscribe, and also press the notification button, because if you don't press the bell, evidently you don't get the notices. And stay tuned, because big things are coming up right after this.